So hi everyone. Today I'm going to talk to you a bit about the real rules of entrepreneurship and why it massively pays not to be an arsehole now and on your way up. I'm going to start with a bit of a confession, and bear with me on this. So I have a type, not in the tall, dark, handsome way, but at work. For years, I was drawn to a certain kind of leader. I'm sure you might recognise the type, fast talking, razor sharp, charismatic, can dazzle a room. And my kryptonite was the creative ones, the kind of people that can spin magic out of the air and have these crazy ideas, and you just feel lucky to exist in their orbits. And the thing that I noticed about working with these people is that I worked so hard, longer, harder, faster for their approval. And actually, they held all the cards. They, when the sun was shining on you and you were in favour, you felt unstoppable. But unfortunately, one raised eyebrow or, a funny look and you completely crumble. And I realised over time that the thing with these leaders and this kind of people that I was drawn to is that they were brilliant arseholes. They could dazzle a room and, land the pitch and make the sale, but they really just belittled and bullied and bulldozed and left destruction around them. It kept going wrong. It kept happening throughout my career. I mean, I'll tell you a bit about my background, but over a kind of 25-year career, there was so many moments were punctuated by this experience and the cultures that enabled it. And don't get me wrong, throughout that time, I've worked with amazing leaders and in really healthy teams with really strong cultures. But there were these moments and this thing that kept happening with these certain people. And I could see it happen to myself and I could see it happen to people around me. And I started to become really aware of what people tolerated and what people came complicit in and what people started, even rewarding and what people kept rewarding. And it's a pattern. It is a pattern. And I noticed it more and more. I noticed it in big global roles and in smaller startups. And I saw really, really good people constantly leaving roles. And I saw all these signals within myself that were happening over and over again, shrinking yourself, second guessing yourself, not speaking up as much, doubting the stuff that you knew you were good at. And again, just seeing people's mental health crumble and people walk away from jobs that they loved because there were certain behaviours that were being tolerated and accepted as okay because these guys were brilliant. In the end, I snapped and I quit. I got one shitty email too many from someone. And I was like, that is it, I'm done. I quit and I promised myself never again. And it wasn't just about breaking my own cycle with this situation I would find myself in. It was about trying to help fix cultures that were constantly enabling it, because it is a pattern. And you so often see that people hailed as champions of creativity and innovation and empathy and leadership within a business or organization are actually creating something very, very different internally. And so that shaped my path. I think it's an excellent story arc for me. But I'm co-founder of HappyHQ, and we predominantly do culture strategy within businesses, leadership development, team dynamics, communications training, trying to build confident teams and really good cultures for businesses. It's not where I started. My experience with brilliant arseholes was in PR agency life. So for 20 odd years, I worked in different global PR agencies, Ketchum and Edelman. I don't know if you will have heard any of these, but leading big global brands and teams. Then I sidestepped in the last kind of 10, 12 years in my career into more startup environments, which I loved. I really found myself in the startup environment, the kind of ownership and accountability and the buzz of it all and the thrill of the sale. It really worked for me. And eventually in the smaller startup agency life, where again, I sort of helped grow businesses from the ground up, scaled in other countries. Unfortunately, a tale as old as time. As soon as I had 2 kids, I burnt out. I had I was 7 months pregnant, I had a 2-year-old, COVID was hit, I was on the board, everything went insane. But for me, it was a really good opportunity for me to reassess what I actually wanted to do with my life. And my journey in PR, I'd always known that the stuff that I cared about most was the people side, the team side, the leadership, the influencing, the pitching, it wasn't necessarily the actual brand work. So I took the opportunity to sort of transition into the people space, and that is where I am now. And I love it, and there's my amazing business partner, Janine, who couldn't be less of an arsehole. She's awesome. The other thing that I did off the back of this is I did a TED talk last year on it. I needed to go somewhere with this, how I was feeling about my experience in the work, set up a business that helps solve some of these issues, but also talk about my experience, because it was a pattern and it was a thing I was seeing over and over again with people that I was working with clients that I was working with friends and colleagues and family. So I went and did a talk on this last year, and it was about the brilliance bias and our obsession with brilliant arseholes and confidence over charisma and being complicit in these things, and what it costs us, how it shows up, the psychology behind it, the reasons why we do it. And I did that last year, and I found out when all the other talks started getting published, needless to say, I was like, why is my talk not getting published? What is wrong with it? But I found out that it been selected by TED Global as an editor's pick, which means that they've identified it as a subject which has global relevance to a global audience. So it means that it goes out on TED Global, which what it tells me is that thank you. That's lovely. The reason I say it is because it's a pattern. This obviously resonates with people because this is a thing that we experience. So the reason that I think this is really important for you guys to hear, apart from just general good human behaviour and life lessons, to not be an arsehole, is during your journey as an entrepreneur, there's so many reasons why it's important, and I want you to think of it in 3 different ways: your relationships, your energy, and your reputation. And I want you to think about it with 2 different lenses on. So the mirror, who am I? Am I being an arsehole right now? I'm sorry for the repeated swearing, but you knew what you signed up for. So who am I? Am I being the arsehole in this situation? And secondly, who am I partnering with? Does this collaborator or partner or project lead or someone I'm wanting to bring onto my team, do they have the potential to be an arsehole? So think about it through those 2 lenses. So what makes up a brilliant arsehole? I just want to talk a bit about what it is and what it isn't. It's not always obvious. It's the quiet things. It's not someone like shouting in a room and being really aggressive and overt arseholery. It's a lot more subtle than that. It's quietly undermining people. It's making people feel smaller, not letting voices get heard, taking too much credit for stuff, or not bringing people in, acknowledging achievements. So some of the first signs that you might notice, and this could be anything that you're working on now, it could be a project that you're working on, or anything within your life right now, the early signs can often be you're feeling a bit confused after meetings, you keep needing to clarify stuff because you're scared you're going to get it wrong or you don't understand it. You're over-preparing for the small things and panicking about little stuff that you wouldn't normally. The editing yourself is a really big one, and I think this is one that really, really does hit people. You really start editing what you're saying and what you say out loud, and reading back over your emails and checking if they're right, and God, will this be misconstrued? What will come back to me? You just really start overplaying everything. You feel relieved when they're not there. The next wave of it is obviously when you start dreading opening emails from this person or dreading going in the next day, and it can manifest, you're losing sleep, it can become something very different. But these are the kind of early signs to start thinking about in terms of, ooh, is this going to go the wrong way? Giving credit. I think there's lots of little things to start thinking about when you work with people and collaborators. You know, watch when things happen, like ideas get attention, or praise is available, or success is visible. So, you know, good people share credit early. Think about, you know, often some of the things I would see in a room would be, we'd do a great pitch to a client, and the front man, you know, the front person would be the person getting all the praise. And they'd be like, you know, great job, Dave, you've done it again. But then you knew, like, Jenny and Sarah had pulled together the insights and they'd done the design of the deck, and the credit wasn't shared with the room. And these are really important things to about as you scale and grow a business. If you want to bring a team along with you, these are the things that are going to keep them focused on the vision that you have. How are you recognizing them? Naming contributions and don't hoard visibility. You know, when something is being celebrated publicly, everyone's name should be shared where it's relevant. You know, red flags, people that rewrite history, they use we selectively, that's such a pet peeve of mine, and get really vague around ownership. So I want to be really clear. What it is when you're being a brilliant arsehole is it's undermining people disguised as honesty. You know, you'll get people that say, look, I'm just being radically transparent with you now. And then they'll say something really shit that isn't even fair or backed up with any specific examples or impact of why it's not good. Micromanaging framed as high standards. The amount of times I would hear these kind of people say, well, they just don't meet my high standards. And that would be because their high standards were such a toxic barrier that was impossible to achieve, that no one could meet those standards. And the control that they had over that was completely unattainable for anyone. Slagging people off behind their back, it's a massive red flag. And I see this a lot now with teams. People notice it probably a lot more than they did back in the day, you know, 20 years ago. But if you're working with someone and they start, you know, talking shit about people quite quickly when they're in your orbit, that is a massive red flag. If they're doing it about other people, they will do it about you, and that it's just not a professional place to exist. Taking too much credit and deflecting blame, there can be a real diffusion of responsibility when things go wrong. Creating dependence, again, as you grow a business, if you are obsessed with control and you are obsessed with your own visibility and, you know, ego, which we'll talk a bit more about, your business cannot grow and it cannot scale. You can't, if you are the center of it, you're not going to be able to create a million different yous. You have to surround yourself with people that you trust and let go a bit. And making others feel smaller, that's a really big one. You know, one of the biggest things that I was saying in my TED talk is that brilliance is never brilliance if it involves taking away other people's brilliance. There's so much potential in a room that is so untapped because certain individuals end up dominating. Now, this is really important because what it isn't, high standards are good. You need high standards. You need excellence. You need to care about the work you're delivering. The care and the passion, the high standards are hugely important. It is about not having them. I do believe perfection can get in the way of progress, which again, why sometimes letting go as a founder is quite important. But high standards, massive tick. You need high standards. Direct feedback, good. Very, very good. I'm a massive believer that feedback is kind. If you aren't giving someone the feedback that they need to hear, that is not kind. You are not helping them get to where they need to be. So absolutely, direct feedback, clear, kind. Ambition, you have to be ambitious if you're going to grow a business and scale it. You know, someone gave me some really good advice once, which was treat your business like a hobby and it will cost you like a hobby. Treat your business like a business and it will pay you like a business. You have to have ambition. Massive tick. Healthy disagreement, you need to think critically about everything all the time. You need a critical lens. You need to surround yourself with people who also have a critical lens that will challenge you. It's just when that challenge turns into something else that actually is becoming really obstructive and not in the essence of progress. And being under pressure. Being under pressure is completely normal. It doesn't make you an arsehole if you're feeling pressured. Constantly wanging on about how busy you are all the time is quite annoying to everyone, but being under pressure is part of running your own business. It's not a bad thing. Relationships. So for me, this has been the single biggest reason I was able to start my own business, was my relationships, because I felt my network was everything to me. I was selling to people that I used to work with, and I've worked in multiple different agencies, and I felt confident that I could go out to those people knowing that I had never been an arsehole, that I had been a good person to work with. You know, you can't, your network is your business. It will be the people that you trust. Arseholes don't get recommended. You know, they're awful to work with. You should hire them or you should buy them. Literally no one says that. It's really important to think about how you are treating people all the time, because you never know when it's going to come back around to you, and they're the people that you're going to need to go to. So it's my relationships and how I've behaved at work, and it doesn't mean being nice. It means I was good. People trusted me. I was never mean to people. You know, I built trust in my relationships that meant that I could go and tap people up. Your network is so important. You know. Small worlds and long memories. Industries are much smaller than you think, and communities are much smaller than you think. And obviously, it varies in industries. Sorry, I'm like, but again, you know, you see it a lot in certain industries. One person, someone is on your team. The next minute, they're your client. You know, it happens so much. You can't, I've worked in agencies before where there's been someone who's been so awful to people, and then one of those people has gone client side and then just cut ties with the agency because they were like, I do not want to work with that person. You have to think ahead. It's industries are much smaller than you think. Energy. So relationship, massive. Think about all of those people that you might need to go and tap up at some point when you launch your own business, if you launch your own business, to sell to work with, to collaborate with. But energy is such an important part of the journey. Energy shows up in how well you can work. You know, when do you work best in the morning? Your focus time. I work really well in the morning, relatively useless after 4, but you know, in general, yeah, I know that if I've got a really big piece of work I need to do or something, that, you know, I don't know if you've heard the expression eat the frog, which is basically do the thing that you're dreading the most first and get it done. But yeah, there's so many reasons why energy is super important, because it's, you know, how you can do your best work, the energy you have to do it, you're pitching, you're performing, you're selling, there's so many elements to it. But for me, the thing that I found over the years has been the biggest drain of energy is people, and working with the wrong people or choosing the right people. And I've become really good at realising now the people that I can tell are going to give me the good energy, that are going to be great collaborators and great cheerleaders and say your name in a room full of opportunities. And, you know, you can tell really quickly over time, you start getting a lens for it, and there's a set of questions you can ask yourself and prepare yourself for it. But it's thinking really wisely about who you surround yourself, because if your energy is getting drained, you are useless to your business. So energy gets drained in, you know, obviously lots of physical ways if you're working really long hours, and, you know, the intensity of work, but it does come through these kind of moments. It comes through constant self-doubt and people micromanaging you, and, you know, side comments, and having to constantly emotionally regulate yourself and be tense all the time because the relationships around you aren't bringing out the best in you, they're depleting you. I would say that when I burnt out, this was a massive factor for me, was managing an extremely challenging personality above me, while also having to take on a sort of MD role in the team where so many people were coming to me with their problems. It was the people stuff that just, I folded up like an old laptop and was like, I can't do it anymore. But it's this stuff that pecks away at your energy. So use energy as information. You know, ask yourself a set of questions. If you're meeting with a potential collaborator or a potential hire or even a potential new client, you don't want to work with clients and people that are going to buy from you that are going to destroy you. So just ask yourself, how am I leaving this interaction? Am I feeling heavy or confused or a bit like I've been kicked in the stomach? But use information and use that energy and how you feel after your interactions with people as information for yourself. Reputation. What you tolerate is what you teach. And I think this was a big thing for me. And I think, I needed to do sort of my redemption piece in terms of, I want to go and fix this problem. I need to go and talk and put this out there and, make a movement. Because I could see how over the years, so many of us become complicit in allowing certain behaviours to exist in an environment, laughing along or, not giving credit where it's due and just literally turning a blind eye to bad behaviour. And your reputation is really important. And most of all, people leave people. They don't leave a business. Me and at HappyHQ, we do so much work on being a good manager and the importance of feedback and how to give it with care. Because, it's a tough market out there and, good people don't need to stay in businesses. They can go somewhere else and people leave people, not businesses. So how you treat people will massively affect your ability to scale. So what I want you to do is next time that you are in a situation, it might be even a project that you're doing now, or there's a move that you're making where you might be leading it, or you might be part of a group. I want you to have a little think to yourself and put a mirror up to yourself and ask yourself a set of questions. So, and I'd be interested to know at the end where people think they sit on either side of this, because again, I cannot tell you how much I shoehorn my TED Talk into absolutely everything. But after my TED Talk, I got so many messages from different people who were in the audience who were either saying, I felt really uncomfortable watching your talk because I know for myself that I have sat back and let people behave like this, and good people leave businesses because of someone else, and people that felt uncomfortable because they'd been complicit, but also other people that had felt so very seen and not quite able to put a name to a pattern that they'd felt themselves. So, ask yourself a set of questions, because I think most of all the bad kind of leadership behaviours and signals do come out under pressure. But am I talking about people instead of them? Am I comfortable having a difficult conversation with someone and saying it to their face? Do I tighten control? Am I too much of a control freak? Am I letting people do the thing and coaching them through something instead of immediately moving to a fixed mode? I'll do it. Moving goalposts without noticing, again, that is really something to be wary of. And one of the most important things that you can do when you're trying to grow a team and keep a team is clarity and consistency, being super clear on what the target is, what the expectations are, what does success look like. One of the things that I would see happen quite a lot when these kind of bad behaviours would show up is quite toxic metrics being set, like completely unachievable targets for people that's never going to motivate someone or keep them. It's just you're not setting them, you're setting them up to fail. Optimizing results over relationships, just a complete lack of care for people. Dismissing feedback as noise. I think it's really important if and when you grow into a leadership role, you've got to give feedback as kind. I'll have that on my epitaph. Feedback is a gift, but you have to be able to take it as well, and therefore you have to ask for it. And so be really accountable to yourself. Do I talk more than I listen? This is a very interesting one, and actually I think I probably talk too much, but you have to make sure that you are hearing all voices in a room. Like if you are in a meeting with friends, it might be a project, I'm obviously talking about this in a work capacity, but think about it in your life. When you're sat around with your mates, how much is everyone in that room being heard? Is there someone that keeps getting spoken over? Be a good listener, be a good person. I'd love to know, Leah, you were trying to say something before. What was that? Or are you making sure everyone is heard around you? And ego, protecting ego more than outcomes. Ego is an interesting one in the entrepreneurial world, because you do need the right amount of ego. You have to be comfortable with self-promotion. You have to be comfortable with visibility. You have to be comfortable with selling yourself. But there is a line where it tips into something else, where it's you and your ego at all costs, without care for anyone else. And an ego can end up really, really getting in the way of good judgment. And are you acting careless rather than direct? So when you are giving feedback to someone, are you really giving it to them in a way that's actually constructive and helpful? And is it embedded in something real and specific that impacts people? Or is it just a bit personal and unkind? Have a think about those. And then the other thing to think about is the decisions that you make when you're choosing to partner with someone. So if we look at it at red, amber, green, you know, you're met with someone, you left that meeting, you leave feeling really clear, they speak directly, you understand what you mean, you get where you stand with them, you can tell that they're going to be super collaborative, it feels like a joint purpose, shared credit, there's curiosity, and you can feel it, that, you know, great, let's move forward, let's take a step forward. You know, proceed with caution if you can feel that there's a bit of mixed signals and there is some things being said that don't feel quite right, and they can get a bit defensive, or you're getting a vibe. And the one thing that I would say is people do need to listen to their instincts more, and that is particularly important in entrepreneurship. I must admit, it's something I hear a lot more from women, that they don't listen to their instincts enough, and I completely agree from my perspective. But usually when something doesn't feel right, it's because it's not right. When you start to feel something in a situation where you're like, oh, this sort of thing keeps happening and I'm not sure if it's me or it's them, you know, trust your instincts. Usually if something feels off, there's a reason that it does, and you've got to believe yourself. And then red, protect your energy. You left feeling drained. They were talking about other people. They were punching down and charming up, which again is a massive thing that I would notice with some of the not good leaders that I've experienced is, you know, really the way that they spoke to the junior team, the way they treated the junior team, or even just less influential people versus talking to, you know, the founder or the MD. It was such a difference. It was so hard to be around and swallow. It just showed no consistency in the values that any of that kind of business was trying to live by. Always shifting targets and you know, blame and fear. You know, you start noticing these things. Red flag, abort, abort, abort. So I was just trying to think about, because I know this is, you know, these are all great things for you to think about now, whatever stage you're at in your life, how you treat people in general, and, you know, where you go. But I was just trying to think about some kind of practical things that you could do immediately. So, you know, 3 things you could do this week. What is, you know, pick one person you're collaborating with, and decide, green, amber, red. Make some decisions. Do a reputation deposit. Give credit publicly to someone. Make an intro, send a thank you, do something, pay it forward in some way. And set one boundary earlier. So clarify some expectations in writing, confirms role. I don't, you know, obviously apply this wherever this makes sense, but start thinking about how you could immediately use these lenses on some of the things live in your life right now. I don't know if anyone is currently experiencing a brilliant asshole in your life, but you know, some top tips: limit exposure as much as possible. Try and stay out of the remit as much as is possible. And if it's something to do with a project or some work or anything, receipts are really important. Keep your receipts of interactions. If things feel unclear and goalposts keep moving and you can't win, get everything in writing. Always go back with a recap to show, this is what I heard, this is what I'm doing, this is when I'm going to do it by. And just make sure everyone is there on the same page with you. Don't get pulled into gossip, and find an ally, someone who is grounded in the situation, that you have a sort of safe space to talk to. And really, this is a really, really hard thing to do, but protect your confidence. self-preservation is, and confidence is something that is so fragile, confidence, and these people have a way of really pecking away at it. So really keep reminding yourself that it's not you. Steal some of these lines. If someone starts pulling you into a conversation, and again, this is something I had to really confront myself with, over the last kind of 5 years, is the amount of conversations that I found myself in that were giving me the massive ick. The way people were being spoken about, and it was just, I have so many, I never agreed with it, I didn't want to be part of it, but suddenly you're there in a room and, don't be complicit in those conversations. So it's just, do you know what, I like them, I'm going to go get a bagel, or whatever it is, just leave the conversation. On credit, do the thing, make the person heard in the room, say I loved that pitch, that was awesome, but also I loved what so-and-so did on this and this, be the person that shares the credit with everyone. If it's on boundaries, okay, like I said, here's what I can do, here's what I can do, here's when I can do it by, and set out your own boundaries. On toxic urgency, it's just like, what happens if this isn't with you in 24 hours? Realistically, I can get it to you by here. And on partnering doubts, if you're not sure, just say, I take a beat before I commit, can I come back to you? So just start using these little things. And when it comes to partnerships and how to test a partnership, don't commit first. Instead of big promises, just do a small task. Instead of long commitments, just have a short deadline. And instead of let's build together, have a clear role split. So, little experimentations before you commit to anything long term with anyone. And that could be, again, in any situation you are now, that there are stakes involved in it. Just have some caution over the lens that you put on it. So why I think this matters so much now, as I've said, I just think it's a really important life lesson. And I know lots of people who have tried to start a business as an entrepreneur, and their reputation has made it impossible for them to go to some key people that could have given them money. They have been impossible to scale their business because they cannot keep a team. The churn is wild, and if you have wild churn, you can't keep clients, depending on what your business is and what the product is. But you don't have spare money at the beginning of your journey. You don't have spare confidence or energy. So it's really important right now at this stage to start thinking about these things. Who you build with shapes how you build. It shapes your energy, it shapes your decisions, it shapes your future, and how you feel and how you show up. So it is a really important time to consider who these are. Just recapping on a few things here for you. Your network is built before you need it. Your network is starting now. Your network is how you treat people, how you behave around them. It is all the people that you know now could easily be people that you need around you later. Your reputation walks into rooms moments before you do. As I've said, someone you collaborate with today could be your client tomorrow. You've got to think about that. And someone you dismiss might be the person making a recommendation for you as soon as you need to get off the ground. It isn't about being nice. This isn't about, being soft or nice. This is extremely strategic. It's about being clear without being corrosive, and being direct without being demeaning. It's not nice. I mean, nice gets a bad rep. It is strategic. The real work, notice patterns, choose deliberately, and protect your energy. It isn't spotting brilliant arseholes. I mean, it's quite fun once you know, but it's not excusing them. It's not becoming one of them. It's not building your future next to one. And just a final thought, and then I'm happy to take any questions, but really, behaviour beats brilliance and energy beats ego. You might open a door, but your behaviour will keep that door open. So it really matters. That's the end.
Thank you so much for this. This was absolutely brilliant. I hope we all agree. It is time for some questions. So please do put your hand up if you've got a question, and I can bring the mic to you.
talk. I have kind of two questions. One question is about for your TED talk, how did you prepare for it? How was your just the kind of process? And the second question is in terms of talented assholes, it's really tough to how would you kind of tolerate? I mean, in situations where I had to tolerate because they were so bad and stuff, but they were so good at their job. Even if you try to report to someone, it's really tough to make that decision. Because then it's like, oh yeah, we all know he's an arsehole, she's an arsehole, but she's just too good at it. So.
That's the dilemma. That there is a dilemma. On your first question, I love talking about my TED talk, but so how did I prepare for it? I mean, there's a process with it in terms of you have to kind of create this blueprint. It has to be an idea worth sharing. It has to, be grounded in no pseudoscience. This has to be a real thing, and it has to be a pattern. And for me, it was about. It wasn't. I could never make it about tearing people down because it isn't about tearing people down. I think if you go up on stage, it's like people are mean and they didn't like it. That wasn't what it was. It was like this is a thing that I have been on the receiving end of, been complicit in. I see everywhere, and it's a truism over time. Like you see it in culture and politics and society, and pilots and surgeons. There's so many stats around the dynamics that make it impossible for people to speak up. So I kind of just dug deep into sort of the history of it being a truism, the stats around the effects it has on people in society, and then peppered in my own stories as well. Does that answer your question? Great. And then the other question, I mean, that's the biggest problem with it. And I've worked with a lot of businesses in lots of different sectors, and in academia, in one university I worked with, it was so systemic, the problem. It was so hard to change anyone's mind. It can feel absolutely impossible, but you sort of have to almost make it harder to be on the wrong side, to be on the wrong side of it, and better to be on the right side of it. I guess it's, if you're gonna confront, bring it to someone to talk to about, you have to be able to very explicitly show the examples of where it's occurred and the impact of what it's done. So actually, in this instance, this meant that, that all these ideas, these people aren't speaking up, people are losing their motivation, other project things aren't being met. I don't know, I don't know the example, but you need to give the specific examples and really show the impact, because the thing that, you don't want all these other people's brilliance to get lost or destroyed because of one. You can't just have one brilliant arsehole reign free while everyone else. It's very frustrating. I mean, we could have a whole other chat about that, but yeah, that's the dilemma.
Well, thank you so much for that. It's really amazing. My question was, what about when you have decided a new business and you end up with one of the customers and you're desperate to expand, you're desperate to have a big name, and then this customer is actually taking advantage of you and they know they're doing it, but they're doing it so tactically that it's even harder to get out of it?
Is it like an ongoing client or a one-time buyer?
An ongoing client, yeah, because I have one of those and it's been going on for a while, but I'm not sure more.
What's the impact of it? Because these things are always a challenge, because I've had the same thing where you've got, I need this client, but actually I'm wasting so much time managing this client and this relationship that actually the money that I could cancel this and probably make double the money focusing on new business and other clients. So it's kind of you weighing up to yourself, actually, will this person ever change? Probably not. I think there is probably a bit of a reality to it, but if you haven't said the thing yet, you don't know. So you need to say the thing to them. But it's weighing up yourself, how much time and energy and headspace, back to the energy thing, is it taking up? Would your time actually be spent better, both commercially and mental health-wise elsewhere? In terms of it with him, I don't know, I'm just conscious bias. Have you said anything to them about it?
Yes, but it's going wrong, because they have that
Yeah, I guess I think the first step is probably asking yourself a set of questions in terms of understanding yourself. Do I need to keep this client? And what is the benefit of the pros and cons of walking away from it? And then just write a script. I'll talk to you afterwards about it, because yeah, it's a tough one.
Thank you so much. So my question is, at what point in your entrepreneurial journey do you draw the line between your personal brand and the brand of your business?
So as in, how much do I do my own brand versus my HappyHQ brand? Sorry, say the question again for me.
Of the image, how should the business be perceived? Should it be through your image or the business's image? Because of course, it starts as an individual before scaling. So at what point do you differentiate yourself from where you're doing?
It's a really interesting question, because your personal brand is massively important. People buy from people. And depending what industry you're in. So me and my business partner, Janine, we do loads of thought leadership stuff. We do TED Talks, and we write for we write for publications, and we speak on panels and do events. And most people want to work with HappyHQ because they've seen Janine and I in some way being ourselves, and actually we both really, really care and love talking about what we do anyway. And people buy from people is the absolute headline. It's really important to have that visibility. And so when people go to my LinkedIn page, they see me talking about the stuff that I sell. For me, I do loads of speaker training. So they see me out there doing speaking gigs, and I've got all this social proof about what I sell to people. I'm actually doing it as well, and I care about it, and I'm writing about it, and I'm talking about it. So I always have a mixture of, his thought leadership, his me being a mum, and then his sell. So it's like give, sell is my personal brand approach, but through my own business account. Give. I'm useful, I'm valuable. This is a bit about me. Now I'm going to try and sell to you. But we've got to a point, to your question now, where we want HappyHQ, like we're working with massive clients and big agencies, but it still feels like it's maybe too much me and Janine now, and we need to start doing more through our business. So we've now switched up to, we still make sure we're maintaining our personal brand, posting 3 times a week, doing lots of visibility work. But now twice a week, we make sure that we're sharing content through HappyHQ as well. So I hope that answers your question. It's extremely important, but we're now at the tipping point where actually we do need a bit more through the brand stuff.
Okay, we've got time for probably one last question. Does anybody have?
The thing is, you didn't talk about much as an experienced businessman. Did you face any failures during your business journey? And what kind of failures, and how did you overcome that kind of failures? If you are having any failures in there's no sales or nothing, do you do a partnership or keep on going on it like that?
Yeah, loads. Loads of them. I mean, yeah, I after I left agency life, I had maybe 3 years of working it out. My strategy was experiment. And I met with people and I sort of committed to things, and I was like, they're not my vibe. And I ended up having to backtrack, and I felt like I was overcommitting to stuff, and I didn't handle those relationships very well, because I realised over time that they weren't right for me, and I wasn't exactly sure on what I wanted to sell, and I was working things out. The services industry is a really hard thing to sell anyway. So I'm not quite stacking loads of cash. It's a journey. It takes 3 to 5 years to make the kind of money I would have been earning in agency life. But yeah, made tons of mistakes, and most of them are about like the energy that I wasted on people. But I've never thought of them as mistakes, I must say. Like, I've always believed in experimentation, and I've invested in the wrong things, and just like heaps, yeah.
Amazing. Thank you so much for this.
Thank you.
You have a
Do you know what? This one.
Yeah.
Do you know, this is probably not quite right, I realised afterwards. Follow me on LinkedIn, guys, if you want some amazing content. But that's our stay interview for businesses.
Oh,
Yeah, so it's...
I will share your LinkedIn with everybody after if you're happy.
Yeah, of course, yeah, thank you.
Amazing.
Yeah, thanks very much.
Can we all please give another massive round of applause?
Thank you.
Thank you so much
Very
for
much.
joining us today.
Such a pleasure.